Hello, teacher friend, and welcome back to the channel. If you are an online teacher and this is your first time coming to the channel, welcome. You have come to the exact right place where you can learn tips and tricks to creating a successful online teaching business. And in today's video, I want to focus on something that specifically relates to Outschool teachers. Outschool is one of the two platforms that I am currently teaching on, and I absolutely love this platform because it truly allows teachers to teach their passions. And one of the top tools that I use to create engaging and fun classes on Outschool is Nearpod. If you have never heard of Nearpod, then I definitely suggest you go check out my other video, which talks a little bit about how you can utilize Nearpod in your classroom. But if you are already somewhat familiar with Nearpod and are interested in incorporating it into your classes or your Outschool lessons, then keep watching because I'm going to talk today about how you can facilitate Nearpod lessons in your classrooms. And of course, have a few backups just in case something doesn't go as planned. Because as teachers, we know that oftentimes things don't go exactly as we would like them to. So I want to make sure that you feel prepared as you enter that classroom teaching your first lesson using Nearpod. So the first thing you are going to want to do is go to your Nearpod account. If you're completely new to Nearpod, know that you can create a free account, which will give you a certain amount of space to create lessons for free. Once you have created your first lesson on Nearpod, what you're going to do is you're going to go and open up that lesson. I'm going to go to one of my folders and I have a few different classes here. I teach my sessions live, so I'm going to click Live Participation. This is going to give me a code which I can then use and share with my students so they can access the presentation. So here you can see that this code Z6IXF is the code that students can use to access my presentation. I can also go over here and click copy link and then send that to my students in a message so that they are able to easily click on the link, use the code if it prompts them for the code, and access the lesson. I definitely suggest sending this code and the link to parents at least an hour or two before your class is set to start. That way they have some time to play around with it and make sure they can log on before class starts. Once you have that all set, you can X out of this and you will see the teacher view of the classroom. And what I really like to do is I will minimize this slide so that it doesn't take up my full screen. I usually have it take about half of the screen, and then I leave the other half of the screen for my Zoom classroom. That way I can see all of my students over here once I open up Zoom, and then I have this over here so I can see which slide I am sharing with my students. And just so we can get an idea of how this would look, I am going to go ahead and bring up Zoom. So ideally, as all of my students are joining the Zoom call and joining Nearpod, I would see this number down here at the bottom go up as different students were joining the Nearpod lesson. And in a perfect world, every single one of my students would access Nearpod, and then we would easily be able to have them complete the different activities on their own computer or their own device, and I would be able to see their work in real time. For example, one of the activities that I have my students complete in this lesson is I have them draw a little picture representing each of the 4 seasons. And again, in an ideal situation, each of my students would have logged into Nearpod and I would be able to see their work as they do it. But of course, sometimes life gets in the way and a student may not be able to log into Nearpod. Maybe they don't have a second device that allows them to access Nearpod easily. Or maybe they're just super busy before class and don't have time to log in. That's when these tips are going to become extremely helpful. So let me tell you some different backup things that you can do in the event that your student is having difficulty accessing or using Nearpod. The first thing that you can do is you can create a separate printable worksheet for your student to draw. So in this example, if I was supposed to have each of my students draw on Nearpod an image of each of the 4 seasons, what I could do is I could create a worksheet for them to print out where they could do the same activity just using a piece of paper. Or maybe If it's just a simple drawing activity like this one, you could literally have them use a blank sheet of paper. They could draw their own 4 little boxes, draw their picture, and then show it to you physically. I find this is super helpful for younger students who might have difficulty either logging into Nearpod or manipulating a mouse or a trackpad on their computer. And in some instances, students might just prefer drawing using crayons and paper instead of on the computer screen. Another option that you could do if your student was having difficulty accessing Nearpod is you could actually go ahead and screen share the Nearpod presentation with your students. The student can then complete the activity by looking on their screen and interacting with you, the teacher, and the rest of their classmates. And let me show you how this would look. As you can see over here in Nearpod, right now I am in the teacher mode. And if I were to screen share with students, they would have a really difficult time seeing everything because it's super small. So what I end up doing is I go up here to the code, and what I do is I copy this link, I open up a new tab, I paste that link, just as a student would do when they want to access this Nearpod presentation. Click enter and wait for it to load. So you would join the lesson just as one of your students would join the lesson before the class starts. So now we are seeing what the student sees on their Nearpod screen. This is the student view of the presentation. And you can see it looks a little bit different than the teacher version. But now I can see that I am being seen as a student. This is when it's helpful if you have 2 monitors. That way you can have the Zoom presentation so you can see all of your students beside your teacher view, and then you're able to move this window to your second screen so that you can easily screen share it with your students. So as you can see now, I am utilizing 2 screens. On this first monitor, I have my lovely Zoom call and the teacher view of the presentation. That's where I'm going to see all of my students' work. Then over on my main screen, I have the student view. This is the screen that I can go ahead and share with any students that were unable to log into Nearpod, or if they were unable to print out the activity sheet or whatever we are working on. So what I would go ahead and do, and I'll show you now, is I'm going to share my screen with my students. I'm going to click share screen down here at the bottom. And because it's on its own separate desktop, I can just click on this basic view, click on the desktop I want to share with my students. And that means that all of my students are going to be seeing this screen. I can then go ahead and move back my Zoom over here. And if I had other students here, I could click on this to make it bigger so that I could see myself a little bit larger and all of my students as well. Then I can have my students help me complete this activity orally, right? I could ask them what are some of the things they might see in invierno or in la primavera. And then I could draw them out. So students might tell me they might see las flores, right? En la primavera. So then I could draw some flores at their directions. I could also have them participate by helping me choose the different colors for the different items that I'm drawing. So this is how I would have students participate if they weren't able to log into Nearpod or if they were unable to print the worksheet. Then, if there were other students that were able to log into Nearpod, I would be able to see their work over on this screen, and then there would be other students that might actually complete the activity on a printed sheet of paper or on a blank sheet of paper, and they could just hold that up to the screen and share it with their peers. So maybe you're thinking right now, well, that sounds all fine and dandy, but guess what? I don't have 2 screens, so that's going to be really difficult for me to do. Well, my friend, I was once in your shoes as well, and when I was traveling or I didn't have access to 2 monitors, I would actually use my phone. And if you have access to an iPad or a tablet, you could also use that iPad or tablet to share that Nearpod presentation with your students. And I'm going to show you exactly what I mean. So before the class starts, as I'm sending that code and that link over to students so that they can access the presentation, I'm also going to email myself the link. then I would go and on my tablet or my phone or my iPad, I would go over to my email, open the email with the link, click on it. Again, this would allow me to log in as a student. And then for any students that were unable to log into Nearpod, all I would do is I would hold up my phone to the screen so that my students can still see the presentation slides. As I move along the presentation, I would talk about the slide and then hold it up so that my students could see it if they weren't looking at their own Nearpod presentation. And I would facilitate the activity the same way I did when I was screen sharing it with my students, except now it's just on a smaller screen like a phone or a tablet. So, my friends, there you have it. Those are some different options that you can use just in case your student is unable to access the Nearpod presentation or they're having difficulty navigating the tool. Usually, instead of taking up valuable class time trying to troubleshoot with the student and go through a bunch of different scenarios. If they're unable to log into Nearpod or they're unable to see it simultaneously while they have Zoom open, I say, no pasa nada, don't worry about it. Do you have a sheet of paper? Can you print out the activity sheet? Or guess what? I'm going to screen share it with you or I'm going to show it to you on my phone, right? We have lots of different options. And when I first started using Nearpod, knowing that I had these different options definitely put me at ease and made me feel much more confident because I didn't have to worry that if the student wasn't able to figure out the technology, that they wouldn't be able to participate in class. I had a lot of different tips and tricks up my sleeve so that they could participate no matter if they were able to log onto Nearpod or if they weren't able to access it. So I hope you found this helpful. I hope that you are able to use these tips and tricks to help you feel more confident moving forward and using Nearpod in the classroom and knowing that no matter the situation, you can definitely handle it. So, my friend, if you enjoyed this video, please go ahead and give it a like, subscribe so that you are notified of future videos. And if you have any other Nearpod questions or tech questions, please feel free to leave them down in the comment section below. It was great catching up with you, teacher friend, and I hope to see you soon in some future videos. Happy teaching and bye for now.